My name is Margaret Lewis. I am 63 years old. 3 weeks ago, I buried my husband of 38 years, Thomas. We built this house together, raised our children here, watched the seasons pass through the kitchen window, shared late-night talks in this living room, and planted roses in the backyard every spring. Everything about this house was a memory, a lifetime shared. But on a quiet Tuesday morning, with the funeral flowers still wilting in their vases, the calls began. "Mom, we need to talk about the house," my son Nathan said. He didn't bother with small talk. His voice was firm, familiar, the same tone he used when asking for money in college. Only now, he wasn't asking. He was telling. I stood in my kitchen, coffee going cold in the mug that says "World's Best Grandma," a gift from my granddaughter, Emily. But nothing felt familiar anymore. Not the mug, not my voice, not even my reflection in the hallway mirror. And when I finally realized what Nathan and my daughter Olivia were planning behind my back, when I understood that their kindness was just strategy, not love, something inside me broke. Or maybe, for the first time, something inside me finally woke up. This is not a story about revenge. It's about reclaiming your voice when everyone expects you to stay silent. About honoring the life you built, even if your children no longer respect it. It's about what happened when my children tried to take my home, and what I did instead. The next morning, Nathan called again. "Mom," he said, "Olivia and I had dinner last night. We talked about your situation. It's not sustainable. That house is too big for you. It's time to think about next steps." I held the phone against my ear, and stared out the kitchen window, where the herb garden Thomas and I once tended had grown wild. I hadn't touched it since the funeral. "There is no mortgage," I said flatly. A long pause. Then that dismissive laugh, sharp and cutting, the same one his father once used, though Thomas had always used it with warmth. Nathan's version held no affection. "Mom, you don't need to pretend. Dad's pension can't cover all your medications. We are worried." They weren't worried. They were circling. Nathan launched into a pitch like it was a business deal. He and his wife wanted to buy a new place, a colonial on Maple Street. Olivia was struggling with Emily's college fund. "If we sold your house," he said, "it would be a win-win for them." "And where would I go?" I asked. "That's the great part," he said brightly. "Olivia has that finished basement. You'd have your own entrance, your own bathroom. It's cozy. And it floods every spring," I said quietly. "It's been fixed. And you'd have Emily to keep you company when she's home from college, maybe help with meals. You know how Olivia struggles with that." I didn't respond because I remembered last Thanksgiving, sitting downstairs alone while the rest of the family dined upstairs. I remembered how Olivia didn't call after the funeral. Not once. Nathan continued, undeterred. "Emily's cousin Gregory is a realtor. He has a cash buyer. Quick close. We could wrap this all up in a month. Start fresh." He said it like he was doing me a favor, as if erasing 3 decades of memories and marriage was just another line item on a checklist. "Mom," he added, "we are telling you this because we care." But what he really meant was, "We want your house, and we are not asking." That evening, my phone buzzed with a message from Olivia. "Mom, Nathan told me about the house. I know it's hard, but it's for the best. Emily is so excited to have Grandma living closer. Can't wait to talk details." Details, as if my grief had a project timeline. I stared at the screen, reading her words over and over. Emily, my granddaughter, who hadn't called or messaged me in months, who used to spend summers baking cookies in my kitchen and planting tomatoes in the backyard, now silent since Christmas, was suddenly excited. I scrolled through our last messages. December 15th, a group text thanking everyone for holiday gifts. No personal note, no "how are you, Grandma?" No check-in after the funeral. If Emily was excited, she hadn't told me. And Olivia, the daughter who couldn't return a phone call while I was burying my husband, now wanted me to believe she was doing me a kindness, offering up her basement like it was a gift, hoping I'd cook, help with laundry, support her through meal planning tasks I used to do when she was a child, now part of her proposal for my future. The message wasn't about care. It was about convenience, a tidy solution that checked the box of being a good daughter while putting me somewhere out of sight, yet still close enough to be useful. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table. Not one casserole dish had been touched. Not one condolence card opened again. For the first time since Thomas's death, I said the words out loud, "I'm not a burden. I'm not invisible." And I was done pretending otherwise. The next morning, I walked into Thomas's study. His scent still lingered in the room, something between old books and aftershave. Sunlight cast long streaks across the desk we bought at an estate sale when Nathan was still in high school. I opened the bottom drawer, the one Thomas always said held boring paperwork. Inside, beneath years of tax returns, was a navy blue folder, thick and heavier than I expected. Bank statements, investment summaries, legal documents, and then, tucked between them, something unexpected. A deed to a house. Not in Ohio, not in any neighboring state, but in Spain, Marbella, a coastal town I'd only heard Thomas mention once while flipping through a travel magazine. There were photographs, too. A whitewashed villa with blue shutters. A small terrace with a sea view. A garden lined with lemon trees. And in Thomas's handwriting on the back of one photo, a place where no one needs anything from us, just peace. 6 months before his heart attack, he must have purchased it. Then I found the envelope, sealed with my name on the front in his deliberate handwriting. Inside was a letter dated exactly 30 days after his passing. "My dearest Margaret, if you're reading this, the silence I tried to spare you from has arrived. I know our children. I love them, but I know them. And I suspect they are already circling like vultures, convinced they know what's best for you. They don't. You are not fragile. You are not to be managed. Everything we saved, everything we built, it's yours. Not to protect, not to defend, to live. Go to the house. See the world we dreamed of. Choose yourself. And when you sit on that terrace with the sea in front of you, know that I always believed in your strength. Love, Thomas." I read it 3 times. When I looked up from the page, I knew exactly what I had to do. 2 days later, I sat across from Helen Parker, Thomas's longtime estate attorney. Her office smelled of leather and old paper. She wore no perfume, just quiet confidence, and a streak of silver in her hair that reminded me strength doesn't always raise its voice. "Mrs. Lewis," she said, unfolding the documents between us, "your husband was meticulous. He left nothing to chance." I nodded, still holding Thomas's letter in my purse-like armor. "He created a revocable trust in your name," Helen continued. "All assets, this home, the investment accounts, the Spanish property, are yours alone. Your children were never named as beneficiaries. Only the life insurance policy goes to them." I exhaled slowly, realizing he had known. He had seen what I refused to admit. Helen slid a second envelope across the desk. "He also opened a separate account last year, and deposited a portion of his pension each month. He called it your Independence Fund. There's $50,000 in it." My throat tightened. He had thought of this, planned for me to finally live for myself. I didn't speak. I couldn't. "And the property in Spain?" I asked quietly. "Fully paid off," Helen said. "You have legal ownership. Thomas even hired a local property manager to maintain it. The house is in excellent condition. You could move in tomorrow if you wish." "Move in?" That simple phrase stirred something deep in me. For the first time in years, someone had spoken about my future without managing it, without bending it into a favor or sacrifice. It wasn't about what I could give, it was about where I could go. Helen leaned forward, her voice gentler. Do you want me to draw up the documents to reaffirm your ownership? I met her gaze without hesitation. Yes, I said. It's time. The moving truck arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, just as Nathan's car pulled into my driveway. I watched from the upstairs window, as he stepped out, still dressed in the yellow business suit his wife Lisa picked for serious meetings. He clutched a manila folder, thick with what I assumed were sale contracts and closing disclosures. He hadn't even knocked when the movers began loading boxes. I met him at the door, wearing the red dress Thomas had always loved. My hair was freshly styled. No tears. No apologies. Mom, he snapped. What is going on? Good morning, Nathan, I said calmly. I'm having some things moved. He brushed past me without waiting for an invitation, scanning the hallway. His eyes landed on the labeled boxes stacked by the stairs. These are mine, I said, pointing. My childhood things. Why are you packing them? Because I thought you'd want them, I added. Memories are precious, and I won't be needing them where I'm going. His brows furrowed. You're not serious. You haven't even signed the sale documents yet. Gregory's client is expecting an answer by noon. I didn't flinch. Nathan, where exactly did you tell Gregory the money from this sale would go? What do you mean? I mean, did you and Olivia already divide it after subtracting imaginary mortgage payments and imaginary maintenance costs? He didn't answer. I didn't wait. You assumed I was struggling. Did it ever occur to you to ask what my husband's pension actually provides each month? Or whether I wanted to stay in this house, the life I built? Nathan tried again. Look, I admit we moved too fast, but you don't have to move into Olivia's basement. We'll help you find a nice apartment, something manageable. I looked him straight in the eye. More manageable for whom? Before he could answer, my phone rang. It was Olivia. I hit speaker. Mom, what is this insanity? Olivia's voice cracked through the speaker. There's a moving truck at my house, and men are trying to deliver that old piano I haven't touched in years. The one you begged for when you were 8. I asked, my voice steady. I thought you'd want it. You said you wanted to keep the memories. I don't want the piano, she snapped. And Nathan, I added calmly, you're not going through with the house sale. There was silence on the line. Then her voice wavered. But you can't afford it. I can afford more than you ever gave me credit for, I said evenly. Another pause. Then, quietly, I added, I'm leaving. But not for your basement. I'm leaving because I finally remembered who I was before I became a convenience. 12 hours later, I was on a flight to Madrid. I sat by the window, Thomas's favorite spot, and watched the Atlantic shimmer beneath us like a promise waiting to be kept. I didn't sleep. I didn't read. I just sat still for the first time in weeks, letting silence wrap around me like a second skin. At customs, the officer asked, purpose of visit. I smiled and started over. Outside, a woman held a sign with my name, Rosa Fernandez, the caretaker Thomas had arranged years ago. She greeted me like an old friend, her hug warm and grounding. Your husband, she said, was proud of this house. He always said, Margaret will make it come alive. As we drove through Marbella's winding streets, I took in the lemon trees, the blue sky, and the distant sea. Every corner felt like a secret Thomas had saved just for me. And then we arrived. Whitewashed walls, blue shutters, bougainvillea climbing over the front gate. A terrace with views of the Mediterranean that made my knees weak. Rosa handed me the brass key. He left it for you, she said. This house is your reward for a life well lived. Inside, everything was simple, peaceful, clay-tiled floors, wooden shelves waiting for books, a kitchen with sunlight pouring in through arched windows. It was nothing like the home I had left behind, and everything I didn't know I needed. Rosa showed me where she'd stocked the pantry. Wine, bread, olive oil, cheese. Rest now, she said. Tomorrow we walk. That night, I stood on the terrace with a glass of wine, watching the last light fade over the sea. The waves below crashed against the rocks in steady rhythm, like a heartbeat, reminding me I was still here. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt not empty, but full. Not lonely, but free. I didn't miss my children. I missed the version of myself I had almost forgotten, and I had just found her again. 4 days passed in quiet peace. I didn't check emails. I didn't answer calls. I watered the garden with Rosa, tried my first Spanish lesson, and walked every morning to the local bakery, where the owner had already learned my name. Then, just as the sun was setting on the 4th day, my phone buzzed. For the first time since Christmas, Emily's name appeared on the screen. I hesitated, but answered on the 4th ring. Grandma, her voice cracked with emotion. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you. There was urgency, but also shame. I just found out, Mom told me you'd been sending money for college. All this time, she never said it was from you. Why didn't you tell me? I leaned against the terrace rail, watching the last bit of golden light disappear behind the hills. Because I didn't need credit, Emily. I just wanted to help. But you shouldn't have had to do it in silence. She said, I'm so sorry. I let them convince me you were fragile, that I shouldn't call too much, that you were grieving, but all this time, I wasn't giving space. I was abandoning you. Tears welled in my eyes, but I kept my voice even. You're here now. That's what matters. Then came the words that caught me off guard. Can I come see you? I froze. Spring breaks in 3 weeks, Emily continued, her voice filled with excitement and a touch of nervousness. I was supposed to go to Cancun with friends, but I want to come to Spain. I want to see the house Grandpa chose for you. I want to know you, really know you, not the version Mom gave me. I let the silence stretch, listening to the waves crashing faintly in the background, the wind carrying the scent of the sea. Then I whispered, yes, come. 3 weeks later, I stood at the arrivals gate in Malaga Airport. When Emily walked through the terminal doors, I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished, filtered version I had seen in holiday photos, the perfectly styled hair, designer tote, and flawless smile. This was a young woman in worn jeans and a plain white t-shirt, hair in a messy bun, eyes searching until they landed on me. Grandma, she called out and then ran. Her hug didn't feel rehearsed or polite. It felt real, strong, like she'd been waiting years to mean it. You look amazing, she said, stepping back. Like, radiant. Did you cut your hair? Just a trim, I smiled. Rosa had insisted. During the drive to Marbella, Emily pressed her face to the window like a child, pointing at every whitewashed village, every grove of olives, every flash of sea between the hills. This is where Grandpa wanted to bring you, she said. I nodded. He bought the house in secret. Said it was for when no one needed anything from us anymore. When we pulled into the driveway, Emily went still. The bougainvillea, the lemon trees, the sea behind the terrace. She looked at it all, then at me. He knew, didn't he, she said softly. He knew you'd need this place. That evening, we sat on the terrace eating the dishes Rosa had prepared to welcome her. The air was warm, the waves below steady. Tell me about your life here, Emily said. I want to know everything. For the first time in years, someone wasn't asking what I could give. They were asking who I was, and genuinely wanted to hear the answer. The next morning, we walked through the village together, buying fresh bread, learning names, laughing over my halting Spanish. Emily asked about my writing, and I told her the truth. I had started a memoir, not the novel I once dreamed of, but something more honest. A story about how easy it is to lose yourself when love turns into duty, and how hard, but necessary, it is to take your life back. Later that week, we walked along the beach, toes buried in the warm sand. "Grandma," she said, "I think I want to stay. Not just for spring break, maybe longer. I don't want to go back to pretending." I looked at her, my granddaughter, my friend, my unexpected mirror, and smiled. "Then stay," I said. "Let's figure it out together. Because family is not built on guilt, inheritance, or forced obligation. It's built on presence, honesty, and love that asks for nothing but gives everything." The days in Marbella settled into a quiet rhythm. Rosa showed me the small markets, the local cafes, and the bakery where the owner had already learned my name. I watered the garden with her help, practiced Spanish phrases with Emily, and let the Mediterranean sunlight seep into every corner of my new life. It was astonishing how quickly the weight I had carried for decades began to lift. No one was dictating my days, no one questioning my choices, no one expecting me to bend myself to their plans. This house, Thomas had left it to me, truly to me, and I intended to honor that gift. Emily became both my companion and my student. She laughed when I mispronounced words at the bakery, and clapped enthusiastically when I managed a full sentence. "Grandma, you're getting better," she cheered one morning, and for the first time in years, I felt proud, not of what I had done for others, but of what I was doing for myself. One afternoon, as we were tending the lemon trees, Emily asked about my life before Thomas. I hesitated, the words heavy, but finally spoke. I told her about my first dreams of traveling the world, of writing stories no one else would read, of having a home filled with laughter and music. I gave so much to everyone else, I confessed, I almost forgot to live for myself. She held my hand. "Grandma, I see you now. And I want to know everything about who you really are." We spent hours wandering the coastal streets, stopping at little shops, chatting with neighbors, sharing pastries and stories. I realized that the freedom I had longed for wasn't just about a house, it was about space to breathe, to remember, to create a life that was entirely mine. Evenings became sacred. We'd sit on the terrace with a glass of wine, the waves below echoing the rhythm of our hearts, the sky a canvas of pink and gold. I shared memories of Thomas, not with grief, but with gratitude for the life we had built together. Emily listened, sometimes laughing at my stories, sometimes silent, absorbing every word. I began to write again, journaling the story of my past, but also sketching plans for my future. Every page felt like a reclaiming, not just of words, but of myself. For the first time in decades, I realized something profound: the world I had imagined with Thomas wasn't lost. It had been waiting for me, quietly, for the moment I decided I deserved it. And Emily, once distant, once silent, was here beside me, a living reminder that love and connection could still bloom, even after years of neglect. Spring in Marbella brought warmth, color, and a sense of renewal that I hadn't felt in years. Every morning, Emily and I would walk along the cobblestone streets, stopping to greet neighbors, sample fresh pastries, and admire the gardens bursting with flowers. Each day, I felt more rooted in this place that Thomas had secretly prepared for me, a gift of freedom and independence. Emily began helping me with small projects around the house. We planted herbs in the garden, arranged fresh flowers in clay vases, and even organized the shelves in the kitchen. Her laughter became a constant, a reminder that joy could coexist with memory and loss. One afternoon, while sipping tea on the terrace, Emily asked, "Grandma, will you ever write more stories?" I smiled, watching her eyes light up with curiosity. "Yes," I said. Not the stories I once imagined for an audience, but stories that are mine. Honest stories. Stories about life, love, and finding yourself again after everything else falls away. She nodded, understanding in a way only grandchildren sometimes do. I want to be part of that, she said softly. In that moment, I realized something profound. The bond one had thought lost with my children wasn't gone, it had simply shifted. Emily, my granddaughter, became the bridge to the life I had nearly forgotten I deserved. Through her, I could experience love and family without compromise or manipulation. Evenings on the terrace became our sacred time. We would watch the sun dip into the Mediterranean, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and purple. I shared stories of Thomas, of our life together, and the lessons I had learned about strength, resilience, and self-worth. Emily listened, sometimes laughing, sometimes silently reflecting, and in her presence, I felt my own spirit grow lighter. I began to understand that reclaiming my life wasn't about punishing Nathan or Olivia. It was about living fully, embracing the future Thomas had envisioned for me, and nurturing the connections that were genuine. By the end of my first month in Spain, I was no longer the woman who had felt invisible and powerless. I was Margaret Lewis, alive, independent, and free. Emily and I planned trips, explored hidden corners of Marbella, and even started small writing projects together. That house, that garden, that terrace with the view of the sea, it wasn't just a home. It was a symbol of self-respect, courage, and the life I refused to let anyone take from me. And as Emily and I laughed over dinner one evening, I realized that I hadn't just found a new home, I had found myself. Family isn't built on guilt or obligation. It's built on presence, honesty, and love that asks for nothing but gives everything. I had been given the gift of a second chance, and this time, I was determined to live it fully, on my own terms.